We hear the engine fire up, which means it's time to visit with a good friend, Ron the Car Guy from Westside Auto Pros, to teach you a little something about your vehicle that you can use. Jackie?
Well, even though we just heard this morning it's going to be a gorgeous day, we are heading into fall and winter season, which means it's time to put away some of those toys that maybe aren't meant to be outside for winter. But there's some things you want to think about if you are putting certain items into storage. And Ron the Car Guy, you're here to give us all the details.
I am. It's going to be a beautiful day. I think it's going to be a beautiful week, but it didn't feel so much last week.
Right.
It was the put the toy away storage week.
You started feeling like, oh, yeah, time to put the toys away.
And someone asked me, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, they said, they've got a convertible and they're not going to drive it in the winter. And they said, when I park it this winter, what should I do? Should the gas tank be full or empty? And of course, that gets my wheels turning. Stuff that I sometimes take for granted as common knowledge usually isn't.
Well,
right.
I mean, I'm sure there's some people that think I can just put it in a storage unit and I'll see you in a few months.
Lock the door and come back.
Yeah.
And that's not always the best idea. And we're talking about, some people have toys. They have, convertibles or a sports car or something they don't drive in the winter.
Motorcycles.
Exactly. There we go. But also, it can apply to, think about if your son or daughter went off to college and didn't take their car and no one's driving it and it's just sitting there. So this kind of applies to any vehicle that's going to sit for 4 to 6 weeks.
How much period? Longer period
if it's going to sit 4 to 6 weeks or longer, we need to think about doing a few things to it.
Okay.
And probably one of the biggest things is the fuel that's in the vehicle. Fuel might not have all the same stuff that it used to because it hasn't kept up with the pace of inflation, so they have to cut back on some stuff. So it's really necessary to put some kind of a fuel stabilizer in there.
And what is a stabilizer for all intents and purposes?
Basically, a stabilizer keeps the fuel fresh and keeps all the components of the fuel held together.
Suspended?
Exactly. Over time, that fuel will start to varnish and it will get sticky and it will leave residue behind that gets into the fuel injectors and stuff we don't want it in. And it becomes old and stale. I mean, if you ever had a can of lawnmower gas that sat around too long and you open it up and it's got like that varnish smell to it, that's fuel that's gone bad.
Okay.
And so we put a stabilizer in there to help stabilize it. And you also want to keep the fuel tank, fill it up, keep it full.
And why is that the reason?
The more gas that's in there, the less room there is for moisture to attract and condensate as the temperature gets warm and cold, cold. And that moisture is what helps or what causes some of the fuel to destabilize and rust and stuff to attain. So my favorite, what I use in my lawnmower and power washer and all my stuff is a product called Stable.
That's the standard, isn't it?
Yep, it is, and it works really well. It's not smoke and mirrors. This is the big bottle. They make a smaller bottle, but there's directions on the back how much to put in for how many gallons. If you're not sure how many gallons you have, maybe estimate on the high side and put a little extra in. It's not going to hurt anything. The car will run fine, but this stuff works really, really well. To put it in, cars, motorcycles, 2-cycle, 4-cycle, whatever kind of engine.
Now, if you're topping off your fuel tank, you probably want to add that before you top it off so everything mixes up, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to just put it in and put the gas cap on and put it in storage. Put it in and drive it around the block or go for one last spin and then put it away. The other thing to keep in mind too, as we talk about this, if you've got a can of gas for like your lawnmower or your weed eater or something, that needs to have some gasoline stabilizer.
I've never really done that.
You've never done that?
No, I haven't. And maybe that's the reason in the springtime things don't work quite right.
Exactly. Okay. Now you're putting spoiled gas in the machine.
Stupid chainsaw. Maybe a stupid guy who didn't fix the gas.
Now, is there anything special we need to do when we take it back out of storage? Can we just run it as normal, or do we need to drain it?
Well, just fire it up and go.
Okay.
From a gasoline standpoint, check the air in the tires. You should do that before you put the car in storage. Check the air in the tires. If it's close to due for an oil change, have the oil changed. Because there again, we've got moisture and particulates and stuff inside that'll turn it into sludge. I would rather see the oil changed before it's put into storage than get it out of storage and then change the oil then, because now the old dirty oil is sat in there all winter long. And then of course we have the battery situation. Newer cars, have all the computers, and there's always a drain on the battery when it's shut off. So
Right.
the best thing is to get a battery maintainer or battery tender. If you have a place to plug it in, a wall outlet to keep that charged. If not,
And they're really not that expensive, not anymore.
$40.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't, maybe you're in a storage unit where there's no electricity to operate one of those.
What would you do in that case?
I would disconnect the battery.
Now, would you take the battery with you since it's going to be below zero if it's an outdoor storage unit?
That is the ideal situation. If you have the skills and the ability to remove that battery, take it home. Put it in the basement, set it on some cardboard or a block of wood. You're not supposed to have them sit on a cold concrete floor. And then in the spring, charge it up, go back and install it. But the maintainer is probably the best way to go, just because we're seeing more and more on these cars. They've got memory in the computer, and they call it adaptive learn. So over time, it learns how you drive, so it learns how to shift the transmission. And once you remove the battery,
That all gets
all that
disconnected.
stuff has to be reset. So
Right.
in a perfect world, we would love to see a battery maintainer on there. Second would be to remove the battery. That's not even easy on some cars.
Right.
So, disconnect it so it doesn't go dead. I had a car. This was several years ago, but I had a car. We'd unhook the negative battery cable, and believe it or not, in the spring, hook it back up, and it'd start right up. The battery, held a charge because there was nothing discharging over the winter. So,
All
That's a
right,
good
things
thing.
to think about.
Now,
Yeah.
speaking of getting cold, what about the antifreeze that is in your vehicle?
check it. We went over this in a company meeting just about a week ago, and it's something we always do, but just to make it top of mind awareness, if you're getting your oil change today, it's going to be below freezing next time you're due for an oil change.
Right.
So test the antifreeze and make sure it's good. In a perfect world, it should never lose its freeze point, but someone could have added some water, and then there's also the corrosiveness of it and stuff. That's probably just as important or more important.
Okay.
All right, looking at the calendar, we're still in Shocktober, aren't we?
We are still in Shocktober. We're Joe and I were just talking about this the other day. This is a great deal. It's one of the best deals I've ever seen on shocks and struts. Basically, if you buy two, you get two free. One is instantly free. The other one's a mail-in rebate. And we're, on most cars, we're talking several $100s worth of savings. And this goes through the end of October. So get a hold of us and take advantage of that. If your car needs shocks or struts, you're going to save $200, $300, $400 doing this.
Well, if people want more information on Shocktober, or if they're getting ready to put something in storage, Ron, and they want to make sure they're doing it the right way, of course, you gave us great information this morning, but if they want more details, where should they go?
They can just reach out to me at Westside Auto Pros. You can call me, 225-9090, or send me an email, westsideautopros.com. I'm Ron.
There you go.
Thanks, Ron the Car Guy. We will be right back.